WNST, touting weekend of football. I'm going to the hockey game on Sunday, and of course, we'll be up in Foxborough on Route 1, waiting for the Ravens to arrive for yet again another late, wintry night, sunset game with the New England Patriots at Gillette Stadium. This guy has seen a bunch of those, as well as a few Army-Navy games here, and I guess he'll be missing this one on Saturday. Longtime voice of Navy, but also the voice of the New England Patriots, and still sporting that 410 area code. We welcome Bob Socci back onto the program. You can follow his journey out on Twitter at Bob Socci. That's SOCCI. And, we'd rather be 10-2 than 7-5, but I like the bus we're riding on right now. This is going to be a fun game on Monday night, Bob.
It should be a great game, and certainly I think it's really, other than the Seahawks game, the Patriots played on a Sunday night a couple of weeks ago, Nestor. The first game has had some real juice to it for the Patriots since Tom Brady came back, of course, off his suspension. And the first home game in particular when Brady played against the Cincinnati Bengals in Week 6 after his Week 5 entrance against Cleveland. But it should be a really important game from the standpoint of playoff seeding for the Patriots, of course, playoff positioning as well for the Ravens in pursuit of that AFC North title. You've got these two teams with what I believe is one of the best rivalries in the game. That thriller that I think you alluded to in the cold, in the evening, from the playoffs 2014. Certainly it seems as though John Harbaugh hasn't forgotten about that game or its aftermath, nor have Patriots fans and the Patriots themselves. And I would expect a similar kind of atmosphere. It won't be necessarily a game with a Super Bowl berth on the line or even a berth in the AFC Championship, but this is going to go a long way toward determining who's in the best position when the playoffs begin to get where both want to go.
Yeah, I was a lot happier and thought it was much more thrilling when we won than when we've lost up there, Bob. But this time around,
that was before my time, Nestor.
Win,
When you
loss.
start talking about the Bob Socci tenure, my tenure with the Patriots, I've called two Patriots-Ravens games. Late season 2013, playoffs 2014.
That's it. So we can't hold you responsible for anything that happened before that. Okay, I was making sure we're clear on that. You're sort of new to the party up there. What makes Tom Brady so special as you see it now that you see it more closely?
Boy, I tell you, it's everything about Tom Brady's approach to his craft and the constant search for improvement. This is a guy who at 39 has sought to improve upon his skills and expand his repertoire, whereas most people his age are trying to overcome their diminished abilities or offset them in some way, maintain them in some way. And here's a guy over the last couple of years has become more mobile. He's been able to make more unscripted throws. That doesn't necessarily mean he's Russell Wilson out there, but nonetheless, you're seeing Brady move east and west a lot more these last couple of years and make plays rather than just climbing the pocket, which he's always done extremely well, maneuvering inside of that pocket. And beyond that, his deep ball accuracy this year, for the most part, has been better than the last couple of seasons. And it's all reflection of this perfect demand that he has on himself, a demand to be perfect. And he never will be, but he's going to constantly seek it. And, when you look at Brady, his knowledge, his experience, all those things are critical. Reading opposing defenses, anticipation, the skills that he has, the system that really seems to be not only perfect for him, but he's perfect for it. He's helped the system evolve through the years. And he's surrounded now by some good players, although he's without Rob Gronkowski. Nonetheless, I think this is as good a receiving core that he's had in my brief time here. When you talk about Julian Edelman being healthy to this point this season, Chris Hogan has been a nice presence, Martellus Bennett as that other tight end, and now the tight end with Gronk on the sideline. A kid like Malcolm Mitchell as a rookie has really emerged of late, and that's been something the Patriots haven't had in many, many years, and that's a rookie who's been a consistent contributor at wide receiver. And then the two backs who catch the ball a lot out of the backfield, and Deion Lewis and James White, to go with LeGarrette Blount. So he's surrounded by some good pieces this year, and I think it's really the best personnel that he's had around him, especially in the receiving core, the deepest anyway, over the course of the last few years, like I said, that I've been around. But it all comes back to Brady's mentality and his approach. This is a guy, like I said, who's never satisfied.
Well, in the case of Gronkowski, they won a lot of games without him this year. That's scary enough. But as a Ravens fan, 4 or 5 weeks ago, we looked up, you're beating up on the Bills, beating up on the Steelers right around Halloween and said, well, we got them coming down the pike. That's going to be a tough night. That's going to be a tough mark for this defense. And this is a pretty good defense here that does a great job of stopping the run, hasn't done a great job of always getting to the quarterback. Clearly, guys like Brady, Manning, the guys that are, quick drop and quick get rid of the football, those are tough guys to get after, even if your pass rush is going well. But it's just getting Gronkowski down to the ground, fighting for balls up in the air, tackling him with one guy. All that's now been eliminated for what Dean Pease has to worry about on Monday night. I know there are other things to worry about, and you've pointed them all out, but Gronkowski was a mismatch creator.
Gronkowski is a mismatch creator, but the Patriots have some other guys who I think can get them into mismatches. You look at Gronk, and when you talk about him being tough to bring down, I mean, that's the one thing about Gronk that goes along with those big hands of his and that great catch radius. I mean, Brady could throw the ball up to Gronkowski, and most of the time he was going to make the play, and then he was going to break a couple of tackles and drag 2 or 3 defenders with him for a while. And there is that absence. Bennett's been a very good player for this team, although he's been fighting through some injury problems himself of late. He's had an ankle issue plus a shoulder ailment that he's had to deal with, and really didn't become much of a factor the last couple of weeks in the passing game. It's been a very good blocker for this team, but still when they flex him out, there's the ability to dictate some coverage in terms of a good athletic pass-catching tight end that forces you to make a decision as a coordinator. How are you going to set your coverage? You're going to put a safety on him. You're going to put a linebacker on him. What are you going to do with Bennett in combination with those other guys? And then I think the 2 backs that they have in James White and Deion Lewis, we haven't seen a lot of them together at the same time, a little bit more in this last game against the Los Angeles Rams than in the first 2 games that they were together on the field since Lewis came back from an injury. But still, with both of them, they're kind of mirror images of one another. There's that ability to flex one out, keep the other one in the backfield, keep both in the backfield. Never know which one's going to go out in the pass pattern, which one's going to stay in, and again, try to manipulate some matchups in that fashion, get one of them on a linebacker. And once Lewis has his hands on the ball, especially, but White too, they're elusive. They're guys that are tough to bring down in open space. So I think you're right. Gronkowski is a one-of-a-kind player, and he will be sorely missed by this team. But I do think this Patriots team, at least if it can keep these guys it currently has healthy, they've already lost Danny Amendola to a high ankle sprain this past weekend. If they can keep this group together, it's the best equipped the Patriots have been, again, in my time, to move on without Gronk.
He is Bob Socci. He is the play-by-play voice of the New England Patriots. You can follow his journey out on Twitter at Bob Socci. That's Socci. And, of course, the longtime voice of Navy football as well. It's about the running game with the Patriots, and I don't know how much they'll test the Ravens on Monday night, especially given the weather and whatever the conditions are and the cold and all that other stuff. But they got a better running back than they've had there for a period of time. Maybe the best running back they've had there. I mean, I go back to Corey Dillon. You go back to some guys in the early days. But this is as formidable a running attack and something that needs to be respected as anything that's been there.
Well, the Patriots this past offseason welcomed back Dante Scarnecchia out of retirement. Dante Scarnecchia, for those who don't know, had been a coach for the Pats for 30-plus years and is probably as well respected, especially when it comes to coaching the offensive line as anybody in the game. He'd retired, although he continued to do some scouting and consulting work for the Pats over the course of the last 2 years. Last time these teams played together, he was not the offensive line coach for the Patriots. And really the last year or so, the Patriots' offensive line, going back to 2015, was in shambles. Even in 14, they overcame some issues on their offensive line to win the Super Bowl. But with Scarnecchia back, there's been continuity on the offensive line. They've performed well for the most part. They have generated a running game. And I think it's not only because of better blocking, but I think it's the mentality and the stick-to-itiveness that a guy like Scarnecchia helps to breed. I mean, this is a guy whose voice is really well respected in that coach's room, and so as they plot their game plans, he and Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator, you've got a voice of experience and someone who wants to stay committed to the run at least somewhat, so that the Patriots can have that semblance of a running game that keeps defenses honest, that keeps defenses out of nickel and dime consistently, the way the Patriots had to deal last year with teams like Denver blitzing, putting a lot of pressure on Brady without any threat whatsoever of a running game, and that's been a difference. And then you mentioned LeGarrette Blount. Last year, this time he was gone because of a hip ailment, but he's had a very good season. He's on the brink of 1,000 yards rushing. He's one touchdown away from tying Curtis Martin's single-season record in franchise history for rushing scores as well. He's been very good. The other two guys I mentioned, mostly if they carry it, it's out of the gun, and it's Lewis who runs more than White. But it's certainly a much, much better running attack for the Patriots than last year. And, the Ravens are imposing. They're very good defensively. That line is extremely impressive. But if you're the Patriots in this game, in my opinion anyway, as we sit, on the brink of these teams meeting Monday night, you still have to run a bit, especially to set up that deep play action by Brady.
Patriots haven't been tested a whole lot last couple weeks, right? I mean, it's just the way the schedule works out. Ravens had sort of a softish schedule at the beginning of the year that looks even softer when you say it was Cleveland and Jacksonville in there. But the Ravens lost to the Jets. The Patriots certainly were tested by the Jets a couple of weeks ago. They looked like a different team on Monday night if you watch that disaster there. But it's been a month since the Patriots have played a tough game, right?
Yeah, that was a different Jets team. And I'm not making the case that the Jets were a good team, but it was a different effort and a much different performance from the Jets against division foe, and a team they were preparing for the last couple of weeks when they met the Patriots on Monday night. That was simply a debacle. But you're right. I mean, when you look at the schedule for the Pats, the last couple of weeks there has been a soft spot. Really, the last three: San Francisco on the road, at the Jets, and against the Rams at home. The Seattle game, which the Patriots lost 31-24 and came down to a 4th and goal to go. Inside the Seattle 2, that was a great game. That was a wonderful football game, regardless of the outcome. And I certainly think the Patriots were hardened from that contest. When they went to Pittsburgh and beat the Steelers, they didn't face Ben Roethlisberger. They got the Bengals at home. Cincinnati at that point really beginning to continue to falter, but I should say they were. It looked like they were going to start to play a little bit better, and then of course Tyler Eifert was out for that game, and then they hit the skids thereafter. But this Patriots team hasn't been tested by the most strenuous schedule. And you're right about that. It's a big difference between 2014, for example, when the Patriots ran this gauntlet of great offenses they had to face, and by the time they got to the playoffs and faced some adversity, like in the division round, they were able to withstand it. We're going to find out about this team a lot, though, the next couple of weeks, because they get the Ravens on Monday and then get the Broncos on a short week out in Denver, which has never been kind to New England. It's the house of horrors out there for the Pats, regardless of who's at quarterback, especially with that defense the Broncos have.
Defensively, not many teams can withstand Jamie Collins. You just tap him on the shoulder and say, go off to Cleveland in the middle of the season. And the defense has been as stingy as any in the NFL. Again, some of it is level of competition that they've played to some degree. But, no one else will be trading Jamie Collins away in Week 8 and be able to survive, especially if they don't win the Super Bowl at the end of it.
Yeah, and Nestor, I should remind you, as you continue to knock the Patriots' schedule, they did beat some of those teams a little more impressively than the Ravens, and none of that matters. Nothing that took place the previous weeks matters when these teams meet on Monday night. When we talk about Jamie Collins and, setting him to Cleveland, that was certainly a very, very surprising move, and a lot of factors at play there, including economics and his contract situation, as well as some other things. And, this defense has been trying to define some roles the last few weeks, and I think one of the benefits of playing this soft stretch that the Patriots have is that they've been able to clarify some things and gain a little more confidence and continuity on defense. They change from week to week, and they've asked some new guys to do a lot of different things over the course of the last few weeks. And I think we've seen some players like Kyle Van Noy, who was a high pick, a second-rounder for the Lions, and a player they liked a lot coming out of BYU, get more comfortable. Jabal Sheard was a healthy scratch, didn't even make the trip to San Francisco. He's a good player. This guy had 8.5 sacks last year for the Pats and was really performing very poorly this season. The defense had not played well overall. They weren't making plays. They weren't getting to the quarterback. They weren't forcing turnovers. It's a big part of the reason why Jamie Collins is now a Cleveland Brown. That, along with failure to carry out assignments on a regular basis. And the one thing about the Patriots' defense is it's discipline. They don't generally give up big plays. They're in the right place at the right time. generally speaking. They weren't for a while this year. I think that we're now starting to see that, and I think because of that, we're starting to see them mix things up in terms of their pressures and what they're doing to try to make some plays. And they've gained confidence in the last couple of weeks. And they're going up against an offense with a quarterback who certainly is coming off a terrific game against the Miami Dolphins, but I don't know if it's going to be necessarily as easy as it was for Joe Flacco, simply targeting the middle of the field against the Patriots as it was last week against Miami.
When I think of the Collins thing, I think of, Belichick and just what's tolerated and what's not, and what kind of people he wants around there. When he decides you're not one of his kind of people, better to get rid of you than to live with you for any period of time. Do you see some familiarity from what you saw at Navy in the way the Patriots are run there? Are there similarities that you can identify being around the teams?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are stars here, of course, like Brady and Gronk, guys who are, proverbially larger than life, but they're team players, and that team concept is first and foremost with the Patriots, and it's not lip service. And I think that's one of those reflections of Bill's upbringing in Annapolis and experience throughout all those Navy teams. The team is always first, and if you're not on board with that, and if you're more of an individual on Sundays, on game days, than an unselfish team player who's willing to, quote-unquote, do your job, exactly the job that's been defined for you, not a job that you define for yourself, then you'll fit into the Patriot plans. If you're not one of those guys, well, you wind up in Cleveland playing a winless Browns team.
Only because Siberia was unavailable, right? There's no NFL team there, from what I can tell. Bob Socci joining us here, Patriots voice. Let's talk a little Army-Navy. I got to do at least a little bit of that with you here this week. Disappointing for Navy last week against Temple. Sort of got outspeeded there. But, what Ken Niumatalolo has managed to do here is really an incredible thing. And I know you still watch it from afar with great love and respect, right?
No question about it. You mentioned the 410 area code. That's something I carry with me wherever I go. Same thing with the love for the Naval Academy and Navy football in particular. But it's been you're right. It was a tough game, and it's been a tough couple of days with the Mids trying to regroup from some injuries, particular to Willworth. But they were beat up by Temple in that game, and it's been interesting this season, as great a season as it's been for them to date. When they've had some prosperity, as soon as they gain some national acclaim, they fall on hard times. South Florida, for example, or last week, Temple, with the Owls really taking it to them right from the outset. I hope they're able to bounce back this weekend. I think it's going to be a really tough game, as it should be, and as it has been the last couple of years. Army's an improved football team. They've gone through a very good season. Jeff Monken, of course, a former Navy assistant coach, has done a really nice job there, and it will be interesting to see how it all unfolds, because although, as we talk about the team concept, and especially at service academies in the ultimate team sport of football, Navy's clearly had the best player on the field the last 4 years they've met. And that player was the difference maker. I know as a freshman when I called the final Army-Navy game of my broadcasting career at the Academy, and he was certainly a difference maker the last couple of years in close games, Keenan Reynolds. He's not there, and now the Mids are down to their third quarterback, and here's hoping they respond well.
Hey, have a great weekend. I know you'll be watching. We'll be here in Baltimore with all things Army and Navy. Then we're going to make our way up to you on Monday night for some clam chowder. It's going to be a great football game.
It should be a great game, Nestor, and it might not be the last time these teams meet this year. I think it's going to be a great atmosphere at Gillette, and I hope that you make it out okay in your purple and black, as I know you'll be wearing the team colors. But wish you a safe trip north, and have a great time on Monday night.
I didn't think about that, Bob, and I'm going to start pimping that the next couple of days to the listeners, that we better hope this is not our last trip to do. We better hope we make it back there, because certainly the Patriots aren't coming here in January. So if we get to go there in January, it will be considered. If I got to call you in a couple of weeks again, we'll see. That would be a lot of fun in early January.
It would be. Yeah. I'll tell you what, regardless of the outcome, I mean, and that's the thing. As much as the fans of the Ravens might hate the Patriots and vice versa, Pats fans with the Ravens, when these teams play, with exception of the 13 game late in the season at the end of that contest as the Patriots pulled away, or the 09 playoff game where the Ravens really steamrolled the Patriots, when they play, it's great. It's great football. I mean, the Ravens are physical. They bring it. There's no fear from the Ravens and no intimidation whatsoever about playing the Pats in Foxborough. So
I think they almost like it. Like Suggs really gets off on it. I mean, for Suggs, it's like going to Madison Square Garden and being the bad guy. He loves it.
And it's great. It lends to great football theater. It lends to great games. And, the two coaches are guys that, had great respect for one another. I assume that's still the case. Bill obviously went to bat for John. Ozzie, of course, worked under Bill in Cleveland. There's a lot of respect for the Ravens people, Ravens organization. It should be a great game.
I'll just pretend Dean Pease never dropped a dime on Chuck Pagano, at all.
Nestor.
It's all part of the legend. It's all part of the legend of the rivalry, is it not?
It is part of the legend. And the line between legend and myth is blurred sometimes. But and by the way, I'm glad to see, by the way, that John Harbaugh has he's really dissected and memorized apparently every line of that rule book with that strategy employed at the end of the Bengals game. That was brilliant. Can you imagine if the Patriots and Bill Belichick had decided to hold a man on the final play of a game and take the safety? Great coaching, great decision.
That's happened twice now.
Outstanding.
Well,
all within the framework of the rules.
Hey, we should only hope that Belichick doesn't confuse the officials on Monday night. Hey, that's what makes it fun. That's what creates this Hatfields and McCoys. And, if the Ravens come up there and bloody the Patriots' nose on Monday night, it makes for good theater, I think. And, hey, by the way, if the Ravens lose, this is like a playoff game here. The Ravens still have to go to Pittsburgh and win no matter what on Christmas. But, this could be a season wrecker if the Patriots beat the Ravens on Monday.
Well, like I said, this should be a great football game. I know you're thinking along those lines, and either way, I think we'll get our money's worth.
Clam chowder will be good. Thanks for coming on, Bob, as always.
Nestor, my pleasure.
You got it. Bob Socci, the longtime voice of Navy, the current voice of the New England Patriots. We got Army-Navy this week. We got Patriots and Ravens this week. All sorts of fun stuff. You can follow Bob's journey on Twitter at Bob Socci. That's Socci. I think that's his boy next to him up in the booth, which is really a cool picture. So go check that out. You can find me out in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day. You can download the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in live or when you want it, where you want it, how you want it, and what you want. It's how the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault.com works for you. Morning newspaper ships to your email inbox at 7 a.m. each and every morning. That is brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. Still $10 a month to get in the best shape and work off the eggnog and the pumpkin pie and the cookies and the ham and all the other great stuff that we're going to be eating here over the next couple of weeks. Nasty at WNST.net is my email address. You can also reach me, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on Facebook Live as well as on our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net. AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.